Welcome everybody. We are recording, so welcome everybody. This is Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call. It is 25th of March. Needed to double check the month because here is moving so fast. My name is Ayça Juvonen. I'm a product manager from Microsoft. Right now calling in from MVP Summit at Redmond. So a bit of a different setup than typically where I'm actually calling in. It should be still good. Now, today we do go through again the basic setup of all of the different assets and things which are available for getting started in Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. And then we have kind of two demos, or one demo. Paolo is going to talk about working with topics and actions in Microsoft Copilot Studio. And then we wanted to do a separate setup where we open up the forum for discussions. And what we mean with that one is that we can potentially do ad hoc demos maybe, or show you assets, but based on the questions, we want to address any questions related on agents. And really focused on the discussion on when to use what, as in when to use Copilot Studio, when to use Teams Toolkit or VS Code to create stuff, when to use SharePoint agents, and what are the limits on them, what you can do with different options. That should be an interesting discussion on the latter part of the call as well. We have Ayça, Bob, Paolo, and me representing the different aspects of the agent world on that discussion. Should be good. I think we can answer most of the questions I can imagine. Now, before we go to the stars and demos and all of the other things, let's recap some of the assets which we have available to get started on Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. So we do have our YouTube channel where we publish at least one video every single day. It's been pretty much now 2 videos every single day. There's so much material to be available to get shared. And this channel, by the way, is definitely not following up on the YouTube best practices, which would be 2 videos in a week or whatever, because we want to share more. And we really want to make sure that you have access on all of the different assets which we are generating. We also have our LinkedIn page and group for discussions, and we have also a lot of open source assets which you can take advantage. And the easiest way to find them is using the sample galleries, and that's at AKMS Community Samples URL. All of the URLs, all of the locations, all of the assets, all of the invites and the community calls, all of that stuff can be found at AKMS Community Home or community.ams URL. Both are directing to the same location. Now, you are in a community call, so you might be actually familiar what these community calls are all about, but there's always new people here in these calls as well. Almost every single week, we do get feedback on, hey, first time in the call, this was actually really cool. So we do have this call happening every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, except on summertime. So this summer, we will break out for July and August, and we'll be then back on September. And that's mainly because a lot of Microsoft people are also on a summer break, and it would be hard for us to schedule those presenters. Tuesday call is really about Microsoft speakers, so cloud advocates, PMs, feature owners, engineers, actually sharing the latest and greatest from Microsoft towards the community. Then we have our Power Platform monthly community call, which is more about community sharing their learnings, Office add-in monthly community call, Microsoft sharing, Office add-in updates, and then our 7 a.m. Pacific series, which is either Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call or Viva Connection and SharePoint Favor community call. Typically, those are happening 7 a.m. Pacific time. Now, this week, just a word of a warning for anybody who's in a US base, that call is 1 hour later than normally until next time. And that's because Europe moves to summertime next Sunday. And this call actually originally many years ago was created in time zone based in Europe, and then it messes up our calendar. Now, if you have downloaded the recurrent invite, that will be aligned properly within your calendar. So please use that one as to knowing when the timing actually is. Hopefully we don't have a lobby again available, so that's really annoying if that's again causing us a problem. Now, all of those and details can be found at AKMS Community Calls, and then agendas at Community Meetup URL. Now, for a lot of these calls, we do welcome community demos, like mentioned, and the easiest way to sign up for those is using the form at the AKMS Community Recast Demo. Then, based on the content what you're suggesting to show, we will schedule you the right call. This doesn't have to be rocket science. It can be getting started on functionalities. It can be a sample which you have created. It doesn't have to be open source. But the only thing is that we do not welcome product demos and marketing demos within this call. So really more about the community sharing other people within the community as well. Now, we do have a lot of assets to get started on Microsoft Cloud using from the learn.microsoft.com. So do check out that location. A lot of free material, modules, and setup for you to get started. So please check out learn.microsoft.com for more assets. We already also mentioned our sample gallery. We are at 2,280 plus samples in that gallery, and more samples getting in every single week, which is really, really cool. So one location to find all of the samples, which is relevant for you across Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. You don't have to go to find the random GitHub repo in random location. No, we are aggregating all of the information to a single portal for you to get started. Now, then you find a sample, might be wondering, how do I actually get now started? Or maybe you want to contribute a sample. And that's why we do have our Sharing is Caring initiative. And live from LA, we have David Booner explaining what is that all about.
Yes, thank you, Vesa. We are in the same time zone today. How awesome is that? Yes. So, friends, Sharing is Caring. It is a live opportunity to learn together with other members of the community. What does that mean? It means that we are going to join these live Teams calls to learn things with hands-on approach, meaning that we'll walk you through how to contribute or how to use GitHub. What's a pull request? How to make a pull request? That gub. Wow, I'm making new words up. Hit of gub. Yes, Git of hubs of gits. It is early, friends. I don't know why. Haven't had enough caffeine. So yes, we will walk you through, and it is going to be a fun time. It is a safe space, which means that it is not recorded, that you can ask any and all questions that you would like without fear of it going on record. We always know we get nervous about that, thinking that, well, no one else has asked this question. Should I be asking it? Am I going to look dumb if I ask it? No, we are all there to learn together. So be on the lookout for a new session scheduled soon. We're going to have a few of them because we've got some friends leaning in to help out. So we're going to see more of them scheduled. Absolutely. Needs more cheer up. Yes, I need more cheer up. We are going to have more scheduled to help everyone out because we have some exciting new things. So be on the lookout at aka.ms/sharingiscaring. And those exciting new things as we move into April, which is 1 week from today, our recognition program is alive and well. And what is going to be happening there? Well, if we go to that next slide, we're going to see all those amazing badges. I see Vesa's hitting the keys. There we go. It is going. And that's right. We are going to be introducing those Star Wars themed badges that are going to be available starting in April. And April is excited, just as we see in the chat. My month is just around the corner. So we're celebrating April. We're going to start out with some Star Wars. It's going to celebrate over the course of 3 months and an opportunity. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to earn these badges. And we're going to ensure that we've got some Sharing is Caring in place to do that. And by the way, when you join the Sharing is Caring, that is a contribution. So you will get that first May the Open Source Be With You badge absolutely free. These are no cost to you. They are fun, but they are real. They show that you are making a contribution to the community. They are accredited, powered by Credly, so you can put them on your resume, blog, LinkedIn, all that jazz, and share them with the community. So we appreciate everything you're doing. Really, really thank you very, very much for all that you're contributing. Keep it up. We're excited to have more campaigns like this coming up. Vesa, back to you in the Seattle studios?
The Seattle studios this time, or Redmond studios to be precise.
Redmond.
Yes, that is awesome to be in the same time zone. Still, anyway, now let's actually move on the following slides and setup. So quickly recapping some of the events which are available to get started, or what events which are coming this spring. So first of all, Microsoft 365 Community Conference is coming in early May. That's going to happen in Las Vegas. A lot of people will be there from Microsoft. A lot of people from MVPs and community will be there as well. Looking like an awesome event once again. We've been there quite a few times. Should be a fun event again this year. Now, then we have the build happening in Seattle and online on May 19th to 22nd. The cool thing about this one is most of the sessions will be actually live streamed as well. So there's a small set of people who can be on site in Seattle, but everybody can access the information. More information on that at buildmicrosoft.com. Then we have the ECS, or Europe combination of 3 conferences: European Collaboration Summit, European AI Cloud Summit, and European BizHub Summit happening on Düsseldorf at Düsseldorf 26th to 28th of May. Expecting more than 3,000 attendees. Really, really cool setup and venue as well. On this side of the pond, now that I'm on Seattle location, we have Seattle, Atlanta, Dallas coming starting from June 23rd, 27th on underneath the Tech Country 65 events. So really, really cool opportunities also to meet up with the community. Then at the October, we have at Las Vegas in the same MGM venue as the Microsoft 365 Community Conference in May. We have the Power Platform Community Conference in October 28th to 13th, plus the workshop days there as well. Will be a super, super cool event. Has been a really cool event within the past years as well. In November, we have Ignite Microsoft.com or Ignite, Microsoft Ignite happening on the week of November 17th. Not a lot of details on this one yet available, but it is happening in San Francisco, and most likely it will be half or partly live streamed as well. And then in the end of December, there's going to be the ESPC happening in Dublin. This is the SharePoint European Conference. And then right now, there's a really, really big discount codes for that one. So you can get 50% off for there because they're celebrating the Microsoft 50 years existence, which is really cool. Take advantage of that for sure. Now, on top of that, we do have a lot of events happening all around the world. You can actually catch up all of them at communitydays.org. This is a location where you as an event organizer can put your event as well. But we as a event attendees, we can find all of the different events happening all around the world, US, Europe, Asia, and so on. Many, many, many locations available for people to meet other community members. Now, this week, quick recap on the news. Not a massive amount of news, but quite a few updates here and there across the stack on Teams, Copilot, developer platform, and Power Platform side. Thank you, David, for sharing those in the chat. For anybody who's interested, we'll always put also the links for all of this news in the video description for anybody who's watching the recording. Now, this week, or in general, we also have our Copilot prompts initiative. So we are collecting community prompts across the Copilot in a one centralized location. Obviously, these are also surfaced in the sample gallery. And this week's prompt of the week is actually coming from Jim Duncan. I think I saw Jim also in the chat. And this is basically a prompt which says, please summarize your responses for this entire conversation in format suitable for creating a Copilot page. And then all of a sudden, Copilot transforms the existing content in the right format, which is really, really, really cool. Thank you, Jim, on that one. So really great example of a powerful prompt. But I think that's it for now. Let's actually move into the picture time. And I can see David being ready to go on the picture time and starting up things as well. So if you enable your camera and then David will share the screen. Will it take over the screen? Yes, excellent.
Yep. We are ready to go. So I think we're doing okay on time. All right.
Yes.
Couple seconds we can give everybody to join in on the fun. I see April and Stephanie and Paolo and Vesa are sitting next to each other while also all around the world. So awesome. Look at that high five. There's Guido. Great to see everybody. Great to see everybody. Okay, a couple more seconds, everybody. If you'd like to join in, get those cameras turned on. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's give everybody a wave. Great to see you all. Thank you again. Really appreciate to see the dedication on these calls each and every week. Zhao, you look great. Great to see everybody. All right. Vesa, feel free to take on back over whenever you're ready.
I will take it over. Let me jump back on. Where's my Teams? Where's Teams? Where is Teams? Sharing that screen over there. I think that should be good. Yes, I can see the screen. Exactly. So next, then it's time to actually go to the stars of the day, or we'll start with Paolo with a live demo on working with topics and actions in Microsoft Copilot Studio. And then for the rest of the call, we'll have a discussion. So please queue up your questions mainly in chat. We have more than 200 people in the call again, probably hitting overall in 300. So it's really hard to have an audio discussion. But if there's any questions which you would like to have answers related on anything on the agents and getting started with agents in Microsoft, including SharePoint agents, declarative agents, custom engine agents, we are there to answer those questions. But before we go there, Paolo, you are ready to go with your presentations on Copilot Studio stuff.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Vesa. So yeah, today we are going to talk about how we can create topics and actions in Microsoft Copilot Studio. And the content we are going to see is part of the Copilot Developer Camp content. So in case you want to dig more into these topics, please go to the link that I'm sharing right now in the chat or use the QR code on the screen. And you will be able to learn more about how to create agents with no code, low code, or with pro code, depending on what you want to do and what the goals you want to achieve are. So In the Copilot camp, you can find content about different areas, like if you want to be a maker, how you can do that using the Copilot Studio Agent Builder or the Microsoft Copilot Studio or the SharePoint agents. Or if you want to be a developer, you can choose if you want to create a declarative agent to extend Microsoft 365 Copilot, or if you want to use a custom model, a custom orchestrator, and create what we call the custom engine agent. You can go for that path as well, and you can learn how to do that. Today, we are focusing our attention on the Copilot Studio section, and we will talk about, as I said, topics and actions. But before going there, I'm really happy to share with the whole community that today we are starting a new initiative. I would say finally, we start a new initiative which will allow all of the community members to get a badge if they will complete the training pathways of the Copilot Dev Camp. And specifically, we will have different flavors of badges. We took inspiration from the judo because I was a judoka when I was really young, many years ago. And we have the blue belt for those who will complete one of the paths, the make, the extend, or the build one. We have the black one for those of you who will complete all of the path, and the red one, the sensei one, if you will be also sharing your knowledge with the community, providing a sample to the sample gallery. The initiative starts today and the 20th of May, and we will allow the very first 200 community members to claim their badges. How can you do that? Well, you go to the Copilot Dev Camp, you go under the award section that we just published. Here you can find all of the instruction and all of the rules. And while going through the content of all of the labs, you will check that you are done with every single step, little by little. And when you are done with all of the steps, like I am right now, you will get this congrats message, and you will be able to click on this blue button. By selecting this blue button, you will have to fill in a form. And by providing your data, which we will use just for the sake of giving you a badge, and then we will get rid of your data, you will be able to claim your badge and to be happy and share with the community your achievement. Please don't change this unique ID that you will see pre-filled in the form, otherwise you will not be able to claim your badge. So I told you so. Watch out, okay? That said, let me go back to the slide deck just briefly, and let's move to the actual topic of today. Sounds like a joke of words, but we are going to talk about topics and actions. And so let's first of all see what a topic is in Microsoft Copilot Studio. Topics are basically building blocks that you can use to create a conversation path in the agents. And you can create them either using a graphical designer or just by describing with natural language what's the goal that you want to achieve. You can have up to 1,000 topics for every agent, and there are system topics and custom topics. The system topics are automatically generated by MCS. You can eventually disable some of them, but you cannot delete them. The custom topics are those that we create by ourselves, and this is the topic we are going to cover right now, the argument we're going to cover right now. The actions are also used to improve the capabilities of your agents and to extend the capabilities by being able to interact with external Power Automate flows, with external connectors, to reuse libraries of actions, and as such to improve the functionalities of your agent. You can trigger actions from within a topic, so you could have a topic which will trigger an action, or you can use the generative orchestrator of Copilot Studio and simply trigger your actions by providing a prompt which is meaningful for your agent and which will actually trigger a specific action that you defined. So that said, let's move to my demo environment and let's see how you can create topics and action. And again, I'm going to show you a sample which you can, if you like, build on your own environment simply by following the instructions on the Copilot Dev Camp. So let's start from here. Let's say that we have let's say that we have in Microsoft Copilot Studio and we want to create a new agent. And this agent, for the sake of making an example, will be an agent which will allow us to work on a set of resumes in a document library that we have in SharePoint Online, as well as it will allow us to work with a list of hypothetical candidates that we have stored in an Excel file, just for the sake of making a simple example that you can reproduce on your side. So let's go to Copilot Studio. Let's create a new agent. It will be, for example, an HR agent. Let me skip the text definition. Let me go to the actual configuration. It can be HR agent for community, just for the sake of giving it a name. It helps HR folks to work with candidates and resumes. Okay. And let me provide just a quick set of instructions, like the system prompt for this agent. You help HR employees to find candidates and evaluate resumes, or something like that. And let's create it like it is right now, and then I'm going to enrich it with some knowledge base and with topics and actions. Takes a few seconds to create my agent, and as soon as it will be ready, we can go and add, first of all, the document library as a data source for my agent. So let me copy the URL of the site in the meantime. And here we can go to the knowledge section, and we can add a new knowledge base, which can be a SharePoint one. We have already been through this kind of stuff in previous demos, so I'm pushing on the gas pedal right now, but I will slow down as soon as I will be creating topics and action. I want to target the list of the library of resumes in my site, and this will be the data source for my agent. So the list of resumes for candidates, for example. This will be the description. Once I'm done with that, I have my agent, I have my knowledge base, just for the sake of having a sample knowledge base, and I'm going to enable the generative orchestration. So I'm enabling this option because I want to show you something which I think is really cool when we talk about agents. So let me go to the topic section, and let's say that we want, for example, to work on the resumes, and we want to identify a candidate that we want to manage in our hypothetical list of candidates. So here I can create a new topic from blank, for example, and I can say that this topic will have a specific scope, a specific functionality. So I simply provide as a description, since we enabled the orchestration-based, the generative AI-based orchestration in Copilot Studio, I can simply say that this topic helps to collect information about a new candidate, to add to a list of potential candidates, and the trigger sentences are register a new candidate, create a new candidate, add a new candidate, and so on and so forth, okay? Then I want to add to this topic a capability to collect information about a new candidate. And in order to do that, I will ask with an adaptive card the content about the candidate that I want to register, to create. In order to do that, I can simply click on this icon, and here you can see we have the source code of the JSON file for my adaptive card. And I can simply paste the JSON of an adaptive card that I already defined, which will allow me to configure a set of properties. For example, we can collect information about the first name, the last name, the email, the current role, and so on and so forth. For the sake of simplicity, in our sample right now, I'm just focusing on collecting the first name, the last name, the role, and as you can see, you can freely play with the JSON of the adaptive card. And I'm going to also get rid of all of the languages, and I simply want to collect first name, last name, current role, and the skills of the user, or the candidate, sorry. As you can see, while I'm collecting the data, I'm also storing the data automatically. Copilot Studio is storing data inside topic variables that I have inside this specific topic, so that later on, I can do stuff like, for example, showing the output to the user, so showing to the user the data that I collected. So, for example, I can say that I want to send a message to the user to confirm the data that I collected, and I want to still use an adaptive card to provide a feedback to the user, so that my adaptive card could be, again, as a JSON object, the following one, where you can see I have just the listing of all of the data that I collected. Now, the interesting part comes here, because since I am in a topic and I have all the power of the Power Platform, in this JSON, I can switch to the formula mode, and I can replace these hard-coded values with actual content that I can get through the context of my topic. So let me expand this UI. And here, for example, when I was providing the placeholder for the first name, I can say that from my topic, I want to get the first name that the user provided through the adaptive card that I defined before to collect the data. I can do the same for all of the other fields. So the last name, for example, and I can do that for the current role. So let me do that, topic.current role, and I can then manage the skills. Let's try to manage the skill. The skill was a list of skills. So if we choose the list of skills, actually, this is a table of selected values, which is not a good fit for a text field in the adaptive card. But again, using Power Effects and the powerful capabilities of the Power Platform, I can simply say that I want to concat all of the skill values with a comma within each of them, and I want to convert it to a text, so that at the very end, I'm providing a formula to define the output of my, the content of my adaptive card, which will become the output of my action. So let me save now this action, which can be, for example, register a new candidate. Okay, let me save this guy. And once I've done that, I can test this new topic simply by using the test interface that I have right here. So I can say, register new candidate. This will trigger my topic. I will be able to provide data about the hypothetical candidate. So again, I keep on using this sample John White hypothetical candidate, or whatever else name you like. Could be a senior developer and expert with experience in computer programming. So let's submit this content. And as you can see, you get back the adaptive card with information about the newly registered candidate. Now, that's cool, but we are not actually feeding the list that we have in Excel. So in order to play with Excel, let me switch to the actions. And here I want to, first of all, create a new action to manage my list of candidates. So if I open this file, we can see that right here, we have these items, these 10 items with this hypothetical candidate. So let's create a new action. This action will, for example, work with a native connector, which is the Excel Online Business connector, and I'm going to list rows present in this table. So by selecting this action in the Excel connector, I need to connect to Excel, and that's what I have just done now. And then I need to provide, for example, a description for my action, which could be list candidates. And I can also provide a description which will be used by the generative AI in Copilot Studio to identify when it needs to target this specific action. I'm going to use user authentication so that I will behave under the identity of the currently connected user, and I can add my action to the agent in Microsoft Copilot Studio. Now we are almost there. We simply need to slightly configure the action itself so that it will target our content in the SharePoint Online library. So first of all, let's go to the input section. And here we have the location of the file that we want to read data from. So let me provide a static value right here. I confirm that I want to use a static value. And let me copy the actual URL of the site where the Excel file is stored. So let me copy this value and let me paste it right here. Okay. Then we move to the document library, and here we want to use it again as a static value. So I'm going to use the library of the resumes, of the candidates, which is the one where I have my Excel file. And actually, because I'm a lazy developer, let me copy the name of the Excel file right here. Then let me go to the file section, input argument, and let's provide a static value for this one as well. And my file will be .xlsx, the name of the file that I have in SharePoint Online. Now, the table that I want to target, because in order to do that, you need to have a table in the Excel file, I'm going to say that I want to use the table of the candidates table, which I have right here in my Excel file. Cool. So now I can save my action again. And in a matter of few seconds, I will be able to trigger my action simply by providing a prompt in natural language, like, for example, show me the list of candidates. And by doing that, as you can imagine, using the generative AI Copilot Studio, as you can see, triggered the connector for Excel and was able to list all of the candidates in the file. But in order to being able to do that, we need to connect to the connector. So let me do that. Let me click on the connect button from the test interface. And let me confirm by selecting connect right here that I want to connect to the Excel Online Business Connector. Now that I'm done and almost done with the connection, now I'm done for sure, I can come back and say retry and see the list of candidates. As you can see, I've got already my 10 items, and we can already dig into them right here. We can see the JSON we have got, and here we can see the output in the test UI. Now, and just to complete this demo, based on the timing that I have, I still have 5 minutes, so I'm going to use all of them. I'm going to use the same capability also inside the topics. So back to my topic to register a new candidate, I want to add the candidate to the actual Excel file so that by triggering the action to list all of the candidates, I can see the new candidate added to my list. So back to this topic, between the adaptive card to collect the input and the adaptive card to show the collected input, I want to add an action which will simply rely on a Power Automate flow that I already created and I'm going to show you, which will insert a new candidate in the list of candidates for HR. So let me choose this one right here. And before digging into the settings of this action, let me show you that in Power Automate, I have this flow, which I can edit and show you. And this flow will be triggered by Copilot. We'll simply use, again, the Power Platform connector for Excel to add to that specific file, in that specific library, in the target site, the settings for first name, last name, role, and expertise of the candidate, so that inside Copilot Studio, I can simply say that, well, the first name that I want to use will be the first name that I collected in the topic. The last name, of course, will be the last name. The role, the role will be the current role of the user. And again, and as before, the expertise will be based on the skills of my hypothetical candidate. So I'm going to use a formula, which will be again text concact, of all of the skills provided by the user. So let me insert this formula, and now I can save my topic. And if I will, and I'm going to do that, if I will refresh the conversation as soon as the topic will be saved, let me refresh the conversation here in the test your agent interface. I can say one more time, register a new candidate. Okay. I will provide, as before, the name, the role, and everything else about my candidate. So, John White, senior developer, or whatever else you like. I will be a computer programmer. I can submit my request. I will connect again, because I need to insert the item and to trigger the flow that I'm going to use. I'm already connected to Excel Online Business, but I'm not connected to the other connector used by the Power Automate flow. And once I'm done with the connection, back to Copilot Studio, I can retry again. And of course, this will happen only the first time when you have to create the connection. So now the candidate summary is right here. And I can double check here, and we have John White, senior developer, computer programming. And we can also see here that if we trigger again the action to show the list of candidates, we can see that now we have John White in the list of candidates. In fact, now we have 11 items instead of 10. This is really, really cool, because just using few clicks and few formulas, you can build a solution with the Power Platform to read and write content of an Excel file using an agent, and you can use the agent, of course, through the test UI of Copilot Studio, but also in Teams or in Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. So that said, back to the slide deck very quickly, just to say thank you and to switch to the next section of content for this community call. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Paolo, for that one. Really cool. Awesome walkthrough on the capabilities. So really great job on that. Now we do have So
if you want, I can keep on sharing my screen. Up to you, Vesa. But
I do have 2 slides which I prepped.
Okay, please go.
Then, as needed, we can actually jump on your screen or do other things. That's actually a good idea because you have the environment open as well. But basic idea is that we will go through, or I will recap one slide which actually Paolo has prepared in the past. We'll talk about the selection of an agent and what are you actually building. And then we'll move into the AMA mode. I will do a quick intro as who people are. And then we open up this for discussions and questions within the chat as well. Now, word of a warning, we kind of actually let me go on the interest line. None of the people within who are in this AMA are really specialists on the licensing side of the house. I want to call this out, and I think Bob is nodding as well in the video, that it's something where we cannot actually be super specific. We can speculate things on license, but again, we shouldn't be the authority on the licensing because remember, we are not from the business side of the house. So we are more from the technical side of the house. But that's kind of a recap on that thing. But before we go there, let me actually recap. So we have Ayça Baş, who's a senior developer advocate in the call. We have Bob German, who's a principal developer advocate, and Paolo obviously was just presenting. We'll probably go to Paolo's screen if needed to do any ad hoc demos or discussions on those things. And I'm Vesa. My title is Principal Product Manager. But before we go to the AMAs and start actually going through things, I wanted to actually go through this slide briefly. It's a great slide and decision path actually for the Copilot Studio Camp, also on what kind of a path and training module you should be focusing into. But let's walk this through. I'm going to use a Zoom it just to actually walk this through together with arrows and everything else. So it all starts from this make or code, as in low code, no code, or write pro developer code. I'm going to tackle the right side first, just it doesn't really matter which one to do we first, but still, if we're looking into making a code, the value of code is obviously that you can automate or move the code more efficiently across, for example, tenants. So you can have a developer. What?
Or at least I can't hear you.
I can hear him.
I can hear
him. Paolo, it was only you. Paolo, can you hear us?
Paolo's muted.
I think Paolo was the one who got impacted. Okay. Yes, the Team Camp problem is in this room. I do apologize on that one. I need to be at a new location tomorrow when we have other things, but I do apologize on that. But anyway, so the value of the code, why would you use code, really comes from the fact that code-based implementations can be moved across the environments more easily. So you don't have to repeat, for example, the click-through of Copilot Studio or click-through of things. So when it's code, it can be packaged, it can be potentially automatically deployed, it can be tested and all of that stuff. That's what the code actually means. And so you're going to have a developer environment, test environment, production environment. You can package stuff and move it across the environments. If you are an ISV or a system integrator, you build stuff on your environment and you want to move that setup your customer environments, you can do that with code. Make basically means that you're making typically in the target environment, which is a completely fine option as well. But let's walk this through. Now, where did my mouse go? Where's my mouse? Where's my mouse? Okay, let me do that. So let me actually copy where we were. We went here, and then we're going to code path right now. And then we do the question on which AI. And which AI basically means that if we are using the Microsoft 365 Copilot, whatever the Copilot is providing, which depends on the time of the year. So when we're recording this, there's a specific LLM and AI provided by Copilot, but within a few months, there could be another Copilot, an AI or LLM provided in Copilot side. And the thinking here is that in future, there's a specific OpenAI setup which we have right now, but you as a user of the Microsoft 365 Copilot don't necessarily select the LLM or AI what is being provided. You use Copilot, and behind the scenes, we might actually in the future make a decision on behalf of you based on the context of your prompt or based on the context of what you're doing. So we're basically then, you can imagine the world where you're doing something in AI and automation in AI based, and then Microsoft or Copilot makes the decision based on the context of your operation. I choose to use this LLM because it's smarter for this particular use case, but customers still use his Copilot. So there's no kind of a differences for end users to actually know about the LLMs and insights of AI, because that's abstracted away. So that's what it means that the Copilot actually provides, or the Copilot AI provided by the Microsoft 365 Copilot. And that's when we use declarative agents. And declarative agents basically means so if you're a pro developer, it means that it's a low-code thing, because you're writing stuff technically in a JSON definitions. You are providing instructions for the Copilot on the instance of the agent, how it should behave. So that's what the declarative agent means. So you're not creating your own, or you're not introducing your own LLM or introducing your own behind-the-scenes logic too much. You decide to use Copilot as it is, but you configure that instance of an agent based on declarative agent definitions. Now, I'm going to actually, was that a good way of explaining that, Bob, Paolo, Ayça, on the declarative agents? Or do you disagree on my statement? Thumbs up. I passed the test. Thank you, Bob. Good. So that's kind of what the declarative agent means, and of course you can create those using JSON. You basically create or you could actually use declarative agents using other things as well. We'll come back on that one in a second. But if we use the code path, you're using JSON, and then you provide the system prompt, and you package that as a reusable agent, which can be deployed in multiple locations. You can, for example, you can put it in store, and people can download that from there. So that's one option. Now the custom engine in here. I will activate that one. There is basically what that means, that if you will have more control on what kind of LLMs and AI logic your system is using. So basically say, I don't want to use Copilot and LLMs and AI features, what the Copilot is providing. I want to expose my custom engine agent. So my custom engine, I will take care of the engine. So you can then use Azure AI Studio, and you can choose which LLM and AI behind the scenes you're using. You can configure that in certain ways, and you can also decide how it's being exposed. But you take an ownership of the UX layer on the implementation stuff. Good way of explaining that option. Just again, validating with the specialist in the room. Thank you. Somebody saying thumbs up. Thank you, Paolo, for approving that. So that's good. Now, then we go to the make side. Let me actually change the color a bit so we can actually easily stay bluish. You can probably see that there. So if we go to actually, let's go to yellow, so it's easier to follow up on what's actually which is the path where we're going now. So if we go to the make side, on the make side, we are creating stuff in the tenant where we are. Now, there are certain specifics and certain exceptions on this, but typically what it means is that you are deploying in quotes in the production tenant. Now, it doesn't have to be in production mode. It doesn't have to be immediately available for end users. It can be isolated and when it's ready, you can actually expose that to be for the end user. But you are in the same environment where it's intended to be used in production, with certain exceptions, but primarily that's kind of the generalization over there. And then that means that we have three different options. The most simplistic option to create an agent in a tenant where the Copilot has been enabled, or if you want to use the pay as you go option, is actually to choose to create a SharePoint agent. And that can be created within less than 20 seconds. And what it means is that behind the scenes, it is using the Copilot engine. It's technically a declarative engine. And it's basically have a knowledge source of a SharePoint file or files or pages or contents or lists in the future as well. But it's technically information what is in SharePoint. So if you have a scenario where the knowledge for your agent is coming, for example, from 5 files or a document folder in SharePoint, and you don't need to modify that output really detailed, for example, with actions or all of that stuff, you can actually achieve that scenario for sure with SharePoint agent. But it is limited. because it's only for the files and content within a SharePoint, which is typically the case where people store their files. And also a lot of the customers want to store their files in SharePoint rather than, for example, moving and replicating the file from SharePoint to an Azure Blob Store and then put it in an AI analytics, because immediately when you do that, then the security and compliance of that file is gone. Because now you moved it outside of the security boundaries of the tenant and you put it in a blob store. Now, with certain exceptions and dependencies, in your case, it might be handled in a nice way. So that's the easiest way for files. And then we have two different options to still go through with a Copilot Studio. So agent to extend Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, acting as the end user, or then a Microsoft agent for Microsoft 365 Copilot Teams and more meaning, for example, website. You want to expose a chat-based UX in a website, then you can use the Copilot Studio for that as well. But those two options are then available with Copilot Studio and on the maker side. Paolo, Bob, Ayça, any good way of explaining options? I wanted to take a quick stab on that, but test it.
Yeah, just a side note that in the Power Platform, you can also work with environments if you want. So theoretically, you can have the dev, test, and production environment there as well. Then it doesn't really work at scale. So if you are an ISV, you want to release the solution to 1,000 of customers. So well, that's not necessarily the most convenient way of working, but theoretically, it is not necessarily just targeting one tenant, one customer. Okay, but aside from that, all good.
Yeah, there's a nuances in all of this discussion. I'm a big fan of oversimplification, but there's always nuances in the overall discussion as well. So to make it simple to adapt the options, but really good. Thank you, Paolo, for that. Bob, you look like you wanted to say something.
No, just
no.
that was
Okay.
that was a great overview. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Now we do have like 15 minutes or 40 minutes, and Russell is opening up the question, which is, does this work in a Dataverse for Teams environment with custom APIs? Dataverse for Teams environment with custom APIs. Dataverse for Teams environments with custom APIs. Do we know? Custom APIs, yes, you can absolutely associate, for example, declarative agents and grounding the data with the custom APIs. And those custom APIs can then expose whatever information is needed for the agent as well. So at least in some level, yes, but there might be some nuances on discussion with Database for Teams.
And I don't know if the question is related to consuming Dataverse, for example, from Copilot Studio, just to make an example. Yes, of course, you can consume Dataverse tables from Copilot Studio, and you can do stuff like reading or writing data quite easily. As I did with the Excel file, I choose to use the Excel file in my demo, for example, just for the sake of giving you a scenario that you can easily reproduce on your own environment without the need to deploy tables on Dataverse or stuff like that. But indeed, what I did before with Excel can be definitely done with the Dataverse.
Yeah, and that means that you don't necessarily need to have a custom APIs. You can adjust the input or data which is getting stored in Dataverse without the custom APIs. But again,
but if you are in the Power in the maker side of the story, yes, I would say if your target is to read and write data in Dataverse, most likely going for the make part is easier for you than working on the code side of the story with the Dataverse APIs at low level. But I mean,
yeah. Good. Jim is saying my content will be in SharePoint, but agent will need to trigger automatically. Fits. I think the discussion it moved too fast. Now I need to actually open up in that. Go in here. Dynamic knowledge from API call. So can we trigger an agent based on a file changes within a SharePoint? Is the SharePoint agents capable of doing that? And answer for right now is no. Anything which is triggering on a change within the SharePoint side, that triggering the change for a file or a new file arriving in document folder or something else or list item getting updated, that triggers an automatic agent. which is doing something based on the incoming information. That's when we would go to the Copilot Studio path, quite typically, to make things to happen automatically.
But is the question about triggering some kind of agent when something happens on a file in SharePoint, or triggering a SharePoint agent?
I think it was more on the first
general agent, right?
Yes. Yes. So Mikhail is saying Dataverse for Teams has been abandoned by PM team. Are you planning to implement a cool beans? I would not want to speculate that discussion too much. That goes a bit off the topic. I understand that the Dataverse for Teams is an interesting topic, but I wouldn't speculate the future of that one. Sami Stefan is saying, how could does Copilot work with SharePoint lists? And right now, unfortunately, the SharePoint list data support is pretty limited on Copilot, but it is in the roadmap to actually get it changed and updated. We don't have an ETA for it, but it's an ask which comes up with a lot of the customers and partners. Quite simply, right now, the prioritization has been on making the file and file information access and all of that super optimal, and then we can transition to also include the lists. The list scenarios are 100% understandable because there's a lot of usage on the SharePoint list as well.
And in the meanwhile, eventually, I don't know what Bob and Ayça think about that, and feel free to jump in, of course, but eventually, if you really need to do something now, you can think about creating a connector, for example, or an API, which will get access to the actual metadata of your list items or documents stored in SharePoint while you wait for the availability of metadata and lists out of the box in Copilot.
Yes, definitely. So the data is available through APIs, but it's not natively indexed or in the semantics index of the M365 Copilot, but you could actually ground your agent with the data using the API-based approach. And I think Shane's video is addressing exactly that thing as well. Shane is having a lot of great videos on these topics. Please explain difference between desktop Copilot tool and Copilot Studio web version. Any cloud advocates want to have a stab on this, or should I try to explain? And this is basically, we have the desktop Copilot within Windows, but then what is the Copilot Studio web? What are these? Well, how does it actually, what is the position in between?
I'm not sure about how to interpret the question, but well, the Copilot Studio, Microsoft Copilot Studio nowadays, okay, for example, agents using desktop Copilot won't show up along agents. Okay. What's the difference between them? Okay, when you create agents with Copilot Studio, you can, when you publish those agents, you can target Teams or also a Microsoft 365 Copilot, and they will show up in the web chat or the bit chat, actually, of a Microsoft 365 Copilot. I'm not sure that Dupala is referring to the desktop Copilot application that we have on Windows. Are you talking about that one, Dupala?
I think it's on the Windows experience. I think a bit speculative, but yes, okay, we got a confirmation on that. So one is more for personal automation and one is more for company and business automation. Copilot Studio would be more on the business automation across the company, and then the desktop automation would be more for your personal access and using the tool. Probably a good way of doing that. Now, this one actually we missed already. So from Jeff, on the make side, I will add this as a comment. If I can, let's see if I can actually do it like that. Is it sending that there? Yes, it is. So question about the make side, where how is it stored, and can we modify it after creation on the code side? So can you actually create something in a SharePoint agent or in a Copilot Studio, and then open that configuration or implementation later in the pro developer or the code side, and then transition that forward to another environment?
Not actually nowadays. I would say there's something that you can do, like, for example, you can create a declarative agent with the agent builder, and you can export the agent that you created as a zip file, and then in the zip file you will find the JSON of the declarative agent, and as such then you can open it in Visual Studio Code. But I wouldn't say that it is something that you should do on a daily basis, let me put it this way. Okay, but yeah, theoretically you can do that, for example.
And there are limitations, obviously, on how all of this works and what it can be transitioned. So as an example, for just to call this out, also on SharePoint agents, there is a button which says in future you can open the SharePoint agent also in Copilot Studio as a one-way transformation. Not yet available, no ETA, as in, but it is coming at some point. So you're able kind of from SharePoint agent start expanding that in Copilot Studio and make it better from there. But again, it's not you cannot go between the make all of the steps and options to the pro and then come back. That's not an option available. Good. I will actually open up one URL here for answering on the limitations of SharePoint. So how do we control SharePoint agents? Admin controls for the SharePoint agents. James is asking on that one. And time is flying really when we're having fun on answering all the questions. We do have certain level of admin controls on SharePoint agents, but I did put the link on that. So on the chat as well in the documentation. So there are ways of doing that. They're not yet super flexible, how you can actually enable the SharePoint agents only for a subset of people. But there's going to be more and more control on that side as well. So the feature is first shipped and available, and then more and more control is going to be provided, and more governance, more admin options as well. Matt Jones is asking, how do we host an MCS, as in Copilot Studio agent, in the SharePoint agent dropdown? Now I got it.
If Matt means,
how do we expose Copilot Studio agents in SharePoint? Yes.
We don't do that right now. There is some working in this area, but right now you can't do that basically. So when you create an agent with Copilot Studio, you can target multiple channels, but right now SharePoint is not one of them.
Yes. Now, there are ways to expose the Copilot Studio agent in SharePoint, but that means that you're using the embedded web part, or you implement your custom extension or a web part where you expose the Copilot Studio agent or a custom agent in SharePoint, which is a common ask from customers as well. Can I put any of these other agents than SharePoint agent in the SharePoint agent panel? Answer is right now, no. There is work being done on that one as part of the SharePoint Hackathon, which closed last week. Tomorrow we'll have an announcement on that one. The winner announcements, we got a lot of actually submissions related on agents directly within the SharePoint, which is really cool to see. But there's going to be more investments on that area. So you can imagine in future within the SharePoint Copilot panel, you can actually get other agent types also exposed directly within the SharePoint sites. And for Matt, is that going to be the only way to host the MCS bots in SharePoint? No. So all of this is really, really early. Everything is evolving. There's more and more capabilities and options available. So you can imagine that right now that we are super early in this path of all of these options and how you can expose things, for example, in Teams or in SharePoint or let's say in Copilot Studio app or in Word or in Excel. But sooner or later, we are evolving within this path, giving you more options and more controls, and then options to expose to agents in multiple locations. We are heading to this agentic world. So you can imagine that we will keep on investing in the agents for sure.
I see a question from Stefan about embedding an MCS agent in an iframe in SharePoint Online, I guess. Am I correct?
Yes.
If the target is SharePoint Online, actually you can implement single sign-on, and there is a sample available on GitHub. I don't have the link handy right now, but I remember that I covered this topic a few months ago in another community call with a live demo. So you can do that, and you can do that with single sign-on in place.
But that, if I remember correctly, we're always running out of time on this AMAs. There's so many good questions, and we're running out of time. But that requires a SharePoint framework implementation. So native embed.
I was referring to the SharePoint framework.
If you do SharePoint framework, which is writing code, you can actually do that. Now, sooner or later, you can imagine potentially an out-of-the-box web part which will enable you to do that with single sign-on at some point. No promises, no timelines, but there's obviously options being evaluated. Now, I do apologize. We do have a lot of, hopefully we didn't miss too many questions. If we did, please respond on thing. So you can add questions still in the chat. We'll try to get to them also after the call, or we'll follow up on things later. You can always join on these calls, and we'll follow up on the questions the next week latest, or use the other community channels. I do apologize. It's always really, really hard to have a limited time frame from AMAs, but hopefully we were able to provide some additional input on the different options and context as well. But that was Ayça, Bob, Paolo, and me doing on that one. Now, next week, we do have a really busy call on 1st of April, which is a interesting day. But this is not April Fools. So we will have a call. We will have 3 demos. Mark is going to talk about SharePoint Embedded. We'll have Bob German coming back on the create a declarative agent with API plugins. And then Nate Tennant and Alexander is going to talk about approvals and BSAP features in community call. The details of that option, the title will be updated. But there's a really cool new scenarios for approvals and BSAP, as in Power Platform integration options, which are available, and they're going to share updated setup on that one. But that's on 1st of April, so a week from now. In the meanwhile, please take advantage of different community options which we have. One of them is Discord. There's already 2,700 members there, a nice set of engagement. It's getting better and better. More people, more engagement on these things as well. We also are always asking for feedback. Did you like the AMA? Was it valuable? Should we have a specific AMAs on top of the calls rather than using as limited time on the calls? Maybe, I don't know. If that is a good suggestion, please provide us feedback as AKMS community calls feedback. Fill us in what works and what doesn't, and we're able to then adjust based on your feedback within these calls. But for now, that's it. The recording will be available within 24 hours at the Microsoft Community Learning YouTube channel, AKMS Community YouTube. We'll announce that obviously in all of the different social media channels, and next call is in April 1st. But that's it for now. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you for being here. Thank you for great questions. Thank you, Paolo, Bob, Ayça, and David for all of the help running the calls as well. So thanks everybody. Have a great rest of the week. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you.